Hey, my friends, and welcome to the Cash Flow Spreadsheet. This is meant to be a brief introduction to how to use this tool. We are not going to be doing the deep dive, not going into scuba mode, as they say. Instead, I wanted to simply show you the overview of how to use this tool and also to give you a quick warning that this tool, this spreadsheet, no app is ever the answer when it comes to our finances. We cannot solve a human problem, an emotional problem with a 100% technical solution. Instead, it is the rich conversations that we're able to have about how do we want to use money to design the lives that we want to live. That is the true advantage of this spreadsheet because it allows us to get the big picture, to see the playing field when it comes to our finances, and to get out of these small little tactical details and to engage in those conversations to figure out what it is that we actually want. One more point is that there are systems like this one that I'm not going to go into depth on, but that when you are ready, there are plenty more resources in the deep dive available to you. And I'll show you where you can find a few more of those. But the point of these systems is really to be able to design structures through which we can actually achieve our goals by working with our own unique money psychology rather than working against it. And we do that really by using the psychological principle of beginning to live by a vision of the future rather than by a memory of the past, like so many traditional budgets force us to do. Now, let's get into the spreadsheet. On the introduction page, you might have gotten to this video from here. You will see a little bit of a brief description. Go to the dashboard page. What you'll see on this page is your main dashboard listed here. Notice that these numbers will auto-populate after you finish filling in the next sheet, which is your cash flow spreadsheet. One more thing to note on the dashboard page is that you will find a net worth calculator over here. Many people will like to use this. Maybe they update it on a yearly basis or twice a year or even monthly because they like to see progress with it. However, my warning is do not become obsessed with just that one number. We'll talk more about why in some of the deeper dives available to you. Now, for now, I wanted to show you how to begin to use this spreadsheet. I am not going to fill out all of these just for sake of time. The one that I am going to fill out is, let's say that I have $9,000 in savings, and you'll see why this is important a little bit later on when we come back to the dashboard. It's specifically here in terms of our months of reserves. Now, let's navigate over to the cash flow spreadsheet. I'm going to enter a few example numbers here just to give you a brief introduction to how somebody might want to use this. Let's say that I make $100,000 a year. Well, I'm going to take that 100,000 and divide it by 12 because everything on this page is based on a monthly number. You'll also notice that I filled in the net monthly income. If you're not sure how to calculate that, that's just after tax income. And there is a resource on the next page for a calculator for how to quickly calculate that. I'm not going to go into too many details for right now. Now, I'm going to start filling out this spreadsheet with some example numbers. I'm not going to complete it all the way because these are just going to be, kind of the quick numbers here. I will note that for some of these numbers, people will sometimes have trouble knowing, like, hey, how much do I spend in an average month on groceries or on gas or something like that, right? Well, I highly recommend that you use the free available tool to OnTap members that is embedded within our mobile banking app. It is extremely helpful for figuring out what your average costs are in these regards. And you don't have to go in and pull every single one of your last, 5 credit card statements and, pull out 3 different highlighters and go into all of the specifics and details. That is a blocker for many people. Now, you'll notice when this living expense section is complete, we see a living expense percentage or ratio at the top here. We'll come back to that because that is important. The other categories, there's only 4 categories, are investments, savings, and finally your guilt-free percentage, which is a number or a term that I borrowed from Ramit Sethi, excellent financial guru out there. It's so accurate though, right? Because how many of us feel guilty when we spend on ourselves? And yet, like, what's the point of money? To be able to live for the now and for the future. So that's the point of doing these 2 sections, the investment planning and the savings planning. And the beauty of this is, and I'm just filling out a couple of monthly examples here for the contributions that I might be making towards savings and investments. Let's say I'm doing $200 a month towards a long-term emergency reserve. Let's say that maybe I also really value giving gifts to the family and traveling for the holidays, and so I have a holiday fund set up for each year. This would all be personalized for each person, right? Now, we're going to go back to the dashboard page and show you how this kind of all fits into the broader picture. What you'll see is that the dashboard has auto-populated, and each of the recommendations is going to pop up with a different color based on where you're at. Are you in the recommended ranges or are you outside of them? Most people start outside of recommended ranges, right? If my living expenses are even higher than this, let's say that my living expenses are at 70%. Well, it is highly likely then that I am going to feel stressed in my finances because there's only so much in the jar that we have available. However, does that mean that, everything's a problem? No, of course not. The whole point of this is it gives us goalposts through which over time we can design the lives that we want to live. Let's say that I'm young and my living expense ratio is at 70%. Well, if I'm young, then I can expect my income to increase over time. I might want to book a one-on-one coaching session with me to talk about resume optimization and interview questions and all of those things, which many folks have successfully done in order to get higher paying jobs. However, the point is that that ratio can go down naturally over time. If, on the other hand, I want to go back into my cash flow plan and start manipulating some of my living expenses and say, hey, do I really need this? Do I really need this type of a car? Do I really need to live in this house? Or do I value maybe going on vacations more? Then I can start to play with some of these numbers and ask myself, without actually going and moving or without actually cutting $100 off of my grocery bill every month and restricting myself heavily, I can say, like, would that make the big difference that I'm looking for? And play with the numbers until I figure out what is going to make the change that I am looking for here. Now, that is the quick overview. I think I mentioned it briefly, but this last page has a resources section. I am continually adding to it. Please get in touch, book a coaching call with me, and suggest some resources that you would love to see a new video on or a book recommendation, whatever it is that you are after. Good luck diving into this spreadsheet, and I can't wait to support you in your journey and talk to you soon.